So I think the question which I sent you today, that question was what can be the strategy? What can be the strategy for employment generation in India? What can be the strategy for employment generation in India? So beta, this was the question which I sent you today, right? So in this question, first of all, how we will tackle this question, right? So first of all, this question is based on a, you can say, hypothesis, right? On an assumption that the rate of employment generation in India is not satisfactory. That is why we have to think about a strategy on the employment generation, right? So first of all, we must have to see that what is the assumption lying behind this, right? So that will help you, right, to, you can say, to coincide your approach with the mind of the, you can say, examiner, right? So that is why we will see the basic assumption behind this question. First thing is that, right, the basic assumption behind this question. That is important to address the question, right? So basic assumption behind this question is that rate of employment generation in India is not satisfactory. So this is the basic assumption. That is why there is need to talk about the strategy for employment generation in India. The basic assumption is that the rate of employment generation is not satisfactory. The rate of employment generation is not satisfactory in India. Is not satisfactory in India. This is the basic assumption, right? So if the rate of employment generation is not satisfactory in India, so then we need to work out a strategy, right? So beta, when you will make a framework for this question, okay, for to answer this question, so first thing यहाँ मैं लिख लेता हूँ strategy, right? So first of all, in few sentences, like one or two sentences, right, we would like to mention that the employment generation rate in India is not satisfactory. Okay, it means the first thing is need for alternative strategy of employment generation. Need for alternative strategy for employment generation, because the government is also making its efforts for employment generation, but still the examiner is asking you that what can be the strategy for employment generation in India. It means he is talking about some alternative strategy, okay, for alternative to the present or to the current strategy. It means he is asking about that, right? So beta, when we will discuss this particular point, need for alternative strategy, okay, we will like to mention here that labor participation rate in India, okay, labor participation rate in India is very low, okay, as compared with the BRICS nations and India's other neighbors, and India's other neighbors, like we can say Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh, Myanmar, right? And Nepal, Pakistan, etc. Right? So etc. Okay. So according to the statistics, in December 2019, the labor force participation rate, according to the statistics released in, according to the statistics released in 2019 December, 2019 December, okay, the rate of labor force participation, the rate of labor force participation in India, was of 49.3% only, okay, which could have reduced further, which could have reduced further, reduced or decreased further, reduced further due to the COVID-19 crisis, which could have reduced further due to COVID-19 crisis, right? So, right, so, but labor force participation rate is very poor among the women in India, as compared with males, okay? Women labor force participation rate is only 24.6, I think 24.6%, right? According to the statistics, in December 2019. Right? So this is the one problem. And second, due to the low labor force participation rate, due to the low labor force participation rate, you can say, okay, there is problem of low aggregate demand, which becomes hindrance to economic growth, and the other problem is that of the brain drain, and disorientation of youth, right? So this is the problem which is there due to the low labor force participation rate in India.
Sir ji?
Yes.
Sir, Sat Sri Akal ji, Sukhchand Singh sir.
Sat Sri Akal.
हाँ सर, ਆਪਣੇ ਦਾ ਸਰ ਇਦਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਸਰ ਡਿਮਾਂਡ
नहीं बेटा, we can say per capita
supply ਦੀ ਕਮੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ
नहीं per capita consumption rate is low in India, okay, but due the overall low level of production in the country, that is why we can say that supply lags behind the demand.
Okay sir ji, okay, thank you ji.
Okay. So beta, one point is this, right? Is this point clear? Okay, let me tell you here, though you can say you need not to mention it in your answer sheet, right? So I would like to tell you here that labor force participation rate, right? Better do one thing, okay? Try to raise your hand, right? If you want to ask some query, okay? That will be better, you can say way, right? So labor force participation rate is equal to, as I yesterday told you, that is equal to the labor force, okay, means the people who are working, labor force, and divided by total population in working age group, divided by total population in working age group, in working age group, right? That is of 16 to 45 years. Yesterday, sorry, 16 to 64
Sir,
years.
64. Yes, sir.
Yes, 16 to 64 years. Yesterday we did this, and then multiply by 100, right? If you want to calculate this in percentage form, multiply by 100. So beta, this is the labor force participation rate. So beta, till now we have discussed the first part of the answer, need for alternative strategy. Okay? You can cut it short according to the length of the you can say answer, right? So beta, I am giving you the wholesome picture. Okay, you can tailor it according to the needs of the examination, right? So that is your responsibility, right? So this is the one thing, beta, right? So it means we have come to the point that there is truly need of alternative strategy for the employment generation in our country. Is this point clear to everybody?
Yes,
जी
sir.
सर
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And beta, now the next important thing which comes here, that is the strategy. What can be done? What can be the employment generation strategy? Okay. What can be the strategy? Now we are coming on this point. What can be the strategy? Right. So as far as what can be the strategy is concerned, right? As far as what can be the strategy is concerned. So now I am discussing about this, that what can be the strategy, right? So beta, as far as this is concerned, so there was, you can say, uh, labor force participation, sorry, employment generation strategy. Our topic is that employment generation strategy. Okay. Employment generation strategy suggestion. This is the question, right? Suggestions. So ये हमारा टॉपिक है आज का जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, right? So beta, this is the so now we can say the basic thing is that suggestion for employment generation strategy, right? Employment generation strategy. So beta, now come to the next point. When we talk about the employment generation, then beta, two things come into our mind, right? Let's suppose you are an individual who is in the working age group. Okay? So when the question of employment comes, so there are two important things which comes to our mind. So one important thing which immediately flashes to our mind, right? 2 points. 2 points. Yeah, I will discuss 2 points here. Right, the 2 points which I am going to discuss here. The one thing which comes to our mind when we talk about the employment, that the first point is you can see the employability of a person. First thing is that employability, right? And the second thing is that employment opportunities, right? Usually the students will miss an examination that point. Employability aspect usually can be missed in the examination by the students, but that is very important point. So second is the employment opportunities. So these are the two things which needs to be discussed here, right? So now your answer, it would become easier for you to answer the question, okay? If you can say analyze it categorically like this, right? So employment. So first thing we will discuss about the, you can say, employability, because we have seen that in India, the, you can say, considerable proportion of the working population in, you can say, uh, considerable proportion of population in the working age group, they are not, you can say, employable. Employable means they don't have necessary abilities or skills which are required for the, you can say, employment, or they are suffering from some other problems, right? So as far as the employability is concerned, to make them employable, first thing is that, right? First thing is that to uh, first thing which we can say, we need to focus on health, right? Because the persons who are poor in health, their productivity remains low, right? And if your productivity is low, if you remain sick, then you can say no employer would like to hire you. So that is why we need to focus on the health. As far as the health is concerned, because in India there is one problem. There is problem of the malnutrition, and due to the malnutrition, right? Due to the malnutrition, uh, in you can say a significant proportion of the children or our country, right, who are going to be the you can say the future of the country, right? So a significant proportion of the children in our country, those go wasted. Those go waste. It means we have a good number of waste children in our country. Okay, and the waste children are obviously, those are non-employable. No employer would like to hire them because their productivity is very low. Okay, one thing is that malnutrition, right? And second thing is that you can say the we can say second problem is that you can say other other health related risks, other health related issues, we can say issues which arise due to the, right, other health related issues. Here we can talk about the mental health as well as the physical health, right? Mental health has a very important role in your productivity, okay? And in our country, usually you can say mental health is not given the due attention by the individuals, mental health as well as the physical health. So these are the two aspects which needs to be addressed by the, you can say, any new, you can say strategy. Okay? And for that purpose, we can say, right? So public health facilities need to be extended, right? Public health facilities need to be extended, need to be extended. So this is important thing, one thing. Public health facilities need to be extended. This is one important thing. And the second important thing, which I can say, right? So public health facilities should be within the range of, should be within the range of, within the reach of, within the reach of everybody, right? Within the reach of everybody, because accessibility is high, right? And the third thing is that there is a very urgent need. There is very urgent need to break the nexus between, right? To break the nexus between doctors, pharmaceutical companies, right? Pharmaceutical companies and politicians and politicians and politicians, right? To lower the cost of health services, to lower the cost of health services, right? So this is also an important thing which needs to be addressed, right? And as far as the, you can say, nutrition related problem is concerned, okay? So government needs to focus more. We will write here more because the government is already doing efforts in this direction. So that is why I am writing here more, right? Government needs to focus more on, you can say, improvement of nutritious food, nutrition, okay, among the population of the country, right? So because this is the one thing, right? So first thing is that we need to make them employable. If they're employable, then I think the problem could be less, right? Could be small. So this is the one thing, right? Health related things are there. And the second thing which we can say, the second thing which is also important, that second thing is we can say that is the education, right? Education. So as far as the education is related, I'm going to delete this bit of health, the explanation of health point. I'm going to delete it, right? So as far as the education is concerned, beta, it is generally seen that we can say, it is generally seen that there are three important things. One is the, you can say, literacy rate. One is that important thing if we talk about the education. And second important thing, if we take care, that is the, you can say, quality of education, right? And the third important thing is that you can say curriculum. This is the third important thing, right? Curriculum is the third important thing, right? So beta, as far as the literacy rate is concerned, we have seen that literacy rate in India is low. Okay? Though due to the government efforts, the literacy rate has started improving now, and it is improving quite significantly. And government has taken various steps, like you can say, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, okay? And you can say making right to education a fundamental right. Okay? So similarly, beta, it has been added to the fundamental duties also, right? And the free education, midday meal scheme, etc., etc. So this is so literacy rate. Literacy rate is low. You can say literacy rate is low. So this is an important point, right? And particularly, it is low among the women, particularly among female, right? Particularly among female, right? And you can say particularly among female, right? And you can say among females also, particularly among the Muslim females, right? Particularly among the Muslim females. So particularly among Muslim females. right? Particularly among Muslim females. So this is important among Muslim females. So you can mention the figures here if you want, otherwise it will do without figures also, particularly among the Muslim females, right? So this is the, so one thing is that, so for that purpose, the government is taking various steps, right? But the need is to, you can say, implement those steps at the ground level, right? And education should be made accessible, and there is a need to, you can say, diagnose the various causes due to which the literacy rate in our country is low, and accordingly the problem can be addressed, right? So this is there, right? So this is the solution of that. Second thing is quality of education, right? Government needs to focus much on the improvement of the quality of education in our country. Okay? Government needs to focus much. Government needs to focus more on the quality of education, on the quality of education in India, on the quality of education in India, because because we have seen that quality of education in India, because we have seen that that the rating of India's education institutions is very poor. Okay, it has been seen that the global ranking of you can see like that the global ranking of India's educational institutions, global ranking of India's educational institutions is very poor. Okay? Is very poor, and due to which we in India are not able to produce the, due to which we in India are not able to produce, the quality, are not able to produce the quality, you can say, workforce, and due to that, the employers don't prefer to hire them, hire them, and if there are, some quality, if there are some quality personnel available, right? You can say uh, the cost of hiring them is very high. The cost of hiring them is higher, okay? Due to the shortage of quality personnel. So this is the problem. So for that purpose, the government needs to focus more on the improvement of the quality of education in our country, right? So this is also an important factor, right? And the next thing is the, you can say, curriculum. Curriculum means the education curriculum, needs to be revised, to make it more practical, and meet the needs of the job market, So we need to do that, right? So this is an important thing, right? So this is the second point regarding the employability. Okay, are you getting these points better? Any problem to anybody?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, good. So this is the second point. right? And the bit of third point is, you can say, skill training to the youth. Third is the skill training to the youth. Government is making efforts for the skill training, right? Skill training of the youth. The government is making, you can say, sincere efforts, right? You can say on this particular basis that how to improve the skills of the, you can say, uh, youth of the country, particularly of those who are the new entrants in the labor force, right? So government is making efforts in that direction, right? But there is the problem, right? Number one, lack of enthusiasm among the youth to attend the skill training programs. Lack of enthusiasm among youth to attend the skill training programs of the government. To skill training programs of the government. This is the one point. And the second point is that, right, after skill training, the, the opportunities are not, the opportunities are not bright, or are very few. So that is why people, you can say, hesitate to on skill training. And third important thing, that corruption has creeped into the creeped into the into the skill training program as well, right? The various private institutions, or NGOs, okay? Or NGOs, you can say, nominated by the government, for imparting skill training, right, are not showing seriousness, and they are more concentrated on the monetary gains, right, received from the government of India, for imparting training, right, right. So that is why this skill training initiative of the government, though good, right, but it needs to be made more effective. Right. So this is about the skill training, right? And the fourth important point that will be here, that is the, you can see, the fourth point is related with the, we can say, apprenticeship training. Apprenticeship training, right? So about this, we can say apprenticeship training if we talk, right? So this apprenticeship training, first of all, what is this? Okay. So this means on the job training. Right? On the job training of a new generation. Right? Of practitioners, right? Or the practitioners of trade or profession. So this is basically the apprenticeship training, right? So what is required is that the apprenticeship training facilities should be, okay, apprenticeship training facilities should be expanded. There is need to expand the apprenticeship training facilities. Should be expanded and should be made more effective and more attractive. So these are the points related with the employability. So I have discussed the 4 important points here. 1 point is health, 2nd point is education, 3rd point is skill training, and 4th point is apprenticeship training. Right? So is it clear up to this point to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, keep on noting these things. You can say these points are very much important from the mains point of view, and you will know the strategy of writing answers also, that how to write answers for the mains examination, right? Because otherwise I have seen that though you can say you have the knowledge, but sometimes you cannot, you can say, present your knowledge, right, in a you can say good manner, good way, right? So the second thing is employment opportunities. This is the another important aspect, employment opportunities. Okay? So you can say strategy should be such that on one hand there should be focus on making the working population, means youth of the country, employable, and on the, you can say, other hand, there should be efforts to sincere efforts to you can say increase the employment opportunities in the country, right? So as far as the employment opportunities are concerned, the first thing which is very much clear, and we know that you can say economic growth leads to increase in the, you can say, employment rate, right? So it means employment opportunities are expanded with the economic growth, right? So it means economic growth and employment, these two have the positive correlation, right? If the economic growth rises, then you can say employment opportunities also rise. Okay, rises, also rise. So because that is why the first point is that you can say we need to focus on the acceleration of economic growth. First thing is that okay, need for acceleration of right, need for acceleration of economic growth. Need for acceleration of economic growth. So because this is an important thing, right? Need for acceleration of economic growth, because until the economic growth rate is improved, the employment opportunities cannot be, you can say, created in the country, and that would become difficult to absorb the youth right into the employment. So beta, as far as the need for acceleration of economic growth is concerned, okay, so we can say economic growth can be accelerated in the country, right? Economic growth can be accelerated in the country through various means, right? Through various means, I would like to say here. Okay, now what are the various means to accelerate the economic growth in our country, right? So what are the various means? What are those various means, okay, to accelerate the economic growth in our country? So the first important point under this is to increase in the rate of right, increase in the rate of increase in the rate of, we can say, investment. At present, the rate of investment in India is low, as compared to other countries of the other comparable countries, we can say rate of investment in India is low. When we talk about the investment here, we talk about both public investment as well as private investment, not only the public investment, we can say, right? So we talk about both, right? So here we talk about the public investment as well as the private investment, not only this, public investment as well as the private investment. Okay? So according to a Niti Aayog report in 2017-18, in 2017-18, the, you can say, rate of investment in India, rate of investment uh, as percentage of GDP, as percentage of GDP, right, was 29%, was 29%, and the Niti Aayog has suggested to, and the Niti Aayog has suggested to raise this rate to 36%, to 36% by the year 2022-23. So this is what has been suggested by the Niti, that we need to you can say accelerate the rate of investment in our country, right? And obviously, if the rate of investment increases, productive investment increases, then obviously what will happen? There will be the increase in the economic activities in our country, and with the increase in economic activity, obviously there will be the need of the higher manpower, right? And if the manpower need increases, then obviously the rate of employment will also increase in our country, right? So government should focus on increasing the rate of investment, right? So as far as the increasing the rate of investment is concerned, so for this purpose, right? So government may, you can say, go for the uh, um, go for relaxation of the FDI norms in our country, right? Relaxation of FDI norms and rationalization of FDI rules, FDI rules, so that more, you can say, foreign direct investment could be brought into India, right? And for that purpose, right, and for the purpose of the FDI, right, we can say, first of all, what is required is the, you can say, legal infrastructure should be made, like the legal infrastructure should be made which is conducive, infrastructure should be made, which is conducive for, raising the FDI, okay, which is conducive for raising the FDI. One thing is that which is required here, so that is the one thing, right? And second thing is that you can say there should be improvement in, you can say, land acquisitions for the big projects, land acquisitions, right? So there should be improvement in the process of land acquisition to make it easier, right? And this is the next thing. And the third, we can say, thing is that government's FDI policy should be clear. FDI policy should be clear and make it investor friendly. Should be clear and more investor friendly. So that is also important, and more investor friendly, right? So that should be clear and more investor friendly as well. So that is also an important thing, right? And this is there, right? And the next, we can say, thing is that government needs to. The next thing is that government needs to check the government needs to check the uh, depreciating, right? Depreciating Indian currency, because if the Indian currency is being depreciated, So then what happens? The investor becomes the loser, particularly the foreign direct investor becomes the loser, right? So because that is why these are the various factors, you can say, which are becoming hindrance in the improvement of the foreign direct investment in our country. So that is why this should be there, right? And the next thing is that the government should need to increase the problem of the law and order in the country, right? So increase the situation of the law and order in the country, because communal tensions and various other things, right? The law and order. So such problems, social issues, those you can say becomes becomes an obstacle into the way of the FDI, right? So that is why these are the various things which can be done by the government to improve the, you can say, this problem, right? So first point is the FDI, right? So if we talk about the increase in the investment in our country, right? And the second point is that, right? Second point is that either lowering the investment in a either lowering the rate of interest, either lowering the rate of interest, lowering the rate of interest, or allow allow Indian corporates to borrow from international market, international market, though in rupee terms, you can say, though in rupee terms, जैसे भी हो, okay, though in rupee terms, at a low rate of interest, right? Because the higher rate of interest decreases the profitability of the, you can say, we can say, investor, right? And it leads to the huge, you can say, accumulation of burden on the investor, and that affects the liquidity of the, you can say, investor badly, and that is why many of the you can say units, or many of the projects, you can say, fail due to the lack of the working capital, right? So that is why the rate of interest should be lowered. And one more thing is that if the rate of interest remains higher, then what happens? The cost of the, if the rate of interest remain higher, then what happens? The cost of firms increase, right? Firms की जो cost of production होती है, that you can say increases, right? Cost of production of firms increases, right? And if the cost of production increases, cost of production of firms increases, right? And if the cost of production increases, then you can say there will be only then you can say it will have two effects. It will have two effects. One effect can be, right? One effect can be uh, rise in prices. Okay? So it will amount to rise in prices if that is there, right? So and the second can be, reduced profitability. Second thing can be the reduced profitability, right? Reduced profitability, right? Uh, if there is rise in prices, that may lead to the inflationary situation, and if the inflation is there, that can, you can say, destabilize the Indian economy. One thing, and second thing is rise in prices and reduced profitability. Both these things affect the you can say competitiveness of Indian industry into the global market, right? So outside India, our industries would not be able to compete, right? If if the prices remain higher, or if their profitability is low, because the profitability, because from the profitability, the we can say uh, firms, you can say, spend on their research and development, right? Acquisition of a new, we can say, technology, etc., etc. So if their profitability will remain low, they will not do that, right? So because this will attract the more private investment if the rate of interest is lowered in the country, right? And because third important thing is that, right? Third important thing is that you can say adequate fiscal management by the government. Adequate fiscal management by the government, right? So government needs to adequate fiscal management by the government. The government needs to, you can say, if we talk about the fiscal management, that means the you can say increase in revenues of the government, increase in revenues, and second number, decrease in expenses, decrease in expenditure. Right? So government should focus on this and decrease in expenditure, right? Decrease in expenditure. So beta, if this thing happens, decrease in expenditure, right? So beta, if this thing happens, then that beta, what will be there? Because if these two things happen, then beta, what will be there? So the fiscal deficit will become narrow. Okay, so it will lead to narrow fiscal deficit. It will amount to this narrow fiscal deficit, right, beta? And narrow, and if we can say fiscal deficit is narrow, then what will happen? Then beta, then we can say the capacity of the government to invest for the capacity of the government to invest for infrastructure development. Infrastructure development would increase. Infrastructure development would increase, right? And that will definitely attract the private investment and the foreign direct investment into the country if the infrastructure is, you can say, improved in our country, right? So this is one thing. And second thing is, you can say, it increases the capacity of the government to invest, right? It increases the capacity of the government to invest. So these are the things, right? So better that is why this can be done to, you can say, increase the rate of investment in our country. So this is the entire strategy which I have told you. Okay? But you can say I'm giving you the broad impression of this, right? Is it okay, Vita? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Vita, the next important point is here that.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
सर प्लीज राइट हैंड साइड नीचे कॉर्नर च थोड़ा जिहा घट लिख लो, शो नहीं हो रही.
Okay, beta, I will try, right? Sure. So you are not able to write this. We are talking about this.
हाँ जी सर, थोड़ा इधर थोड़ा पिक्चर होंदी है ना ता कह रही है.
फिजिकल मैनेजमेंट गवर्नमेंट साइड सर.
Okay. Right. So is it clear up to this point? So now the next.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the next important point is that. So now the next important point, one is this, right? And the next important point is, we can say, fiscal and monetary stability into the country. Fiscal and monetary stability. Basically, the fiscal and monetary stability is required for the increase in rate of investment. So I'm not going to mention here it separately. Okay. So next thing is beta. We can say improvement of financial market, right? Improvement of financial market, right? Improvement of financial market. And if there is the improvement of financial market in the country, then you can say that will definitely boost confidence in investors, right? Boost confidence in investors, and will lead to more participation of individuals more participation of individuals into the. Navreet, is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, of individuals into the, right, into the financial market, right? So it will increase the rate of, it can increase the rate of, it can help increasing the, rate of investment, right? Investment and the expanded financial market, can bring more employment, right? Expanded financial market can bring more employment. Is it clear up to this point? Can bring more employment, right? So this is the improvement in financial market, right? So next point, we can say that acceleration of India's, we can say, India's foreign trade. Acceleration of India's foreign trade. So foreign trade of India could, India's foreign trade, right? Foreign trade. So foreign trade of India could, you can say, also help in the increasing employment of the country. If we see better foreign trade, right, would, there are two components of the foreign trade. One component is, we can say, import, and the second component is export, right? Two components of foreign trade is there. One component is import, and the second component is, we can say, export. So as far as the import is concerned, we can say that import of those articles or technology which support the Indian industry, or help in raising the production level, okay, should be made cheaper by allowing concessions in import duties of such articles or technology. Okay, such articles or technology. So this will boost the, you can say, expansion of economy, and more, you can say, this will boost the expansion of economy, and more in this will boost expansion of economy, and setting up new, you can say, production units in the country, so that can help, right? So this is one thing, that import of those articles which help the, you can say, Indian industry, which help the, you can say, raising of the production level, right, should be made less costlier by lowering the import duty. This is what the government can do in India, right? So because this is there, right? And the next thing is that India's foreign trade should be made more, you can say, export oriented. India's foreign trade should be made more export oriented, India's foreign trade should be made more export oriented, right? Export oriented. So this would definitely definitely help in number one, increasing production in the country, increasing production and economic growth in the country, and economic growth. This is the one thing. This will lead to this. And second thing, strengthening of Indian rupee. Right? Strengthening of Indian rupee, because this way the strengthening of Indian rupee. So demand for dollars in India will reduce in Indian rupee, right? So that is why. So if the Indian rupee got you can say strengthened, then we can say capital, foreign direct investment, capital flight from the country, that can be stopped, right? So that is the point, right? So this will help in expansion of the this we can say, right? So the next important point which I will discuss here, next important point which I am going to discuss here, that is that you can say, right? The next important point is that we can say, the fourth point is that we can say that for the time being, entrepreneurship training, that is important, right? So if more entrepreneurship training will be given, then more youth will come forward to invest in the country, to set up the manufacturing units, production units, or various other units, service units like that. And if that happens in the country, then obviously that will generate employment in our country, right? So, but for the short term, okay, MNREGA needs to be strengthened. Strengthened and more inclusive. Okay, and we can say a MNREGA like right? MNREGA like scheme, employment scheme can be planned for the urbans also to address the problem of unemployment in cities, right? So this is there. So this is the way how to tackle this question, right? So these are the various points status, but at the end you need to write a conclusion also. So this is the basic thing, right? So you can cut it short according to the needs of the examination, right? So is it clear up to this point, Peter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So beta, this was the today's question, right? So I hope you must have studied. You must have you can say learned it well, and I hope that you must have enjoyed this discussion also, because this discussion was important, right? And beta, if anybody of you has any doubt related to this, you can ask, please. or any query from this section, you can ask, please. No query?
You have framed it in a very well manner. बहुत अच्छे तरीके नाल के points होई सीगा भी दिमाग च सीगे but ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ frame करना ਤੁਸੀਂ बहुत ਵਧੀਆ तरीके ਦੇ ਨਾਲ समझाया.
So anybody else if wants to ask anything, please.
सर क्वेश्चन क्या ऐसे लिख देंगे अब तो?
Yes. So वही होता है बेटा, right? So you must have the necessary raw material, right? Then you can create anything. Right? So beta, I am coming in 2 minutes now, right? So then I will, you can say continue the lecture further, right? I am coming in 2 minutes.